We've got 2 hours to talk about everything happening in the National Football League, and you never know where the news is going to come from. And there's a story that has been the result, Chris, of a sequence of events. And let's take you back to last week. It began with a tweet from Leonard Fournette advocating for the Jaguars to add Cam Newton. Of course, the only problem is I already have Gardner Minshew II. Well, then Leonard Fournette was on ESPN, and he elaborated on his position that Cam Newton should become a Jaguar. Cam went to the Super Bowl, Fournette said. He's a great guy. I've been knowing Cam for a minute now, which I think means, I'm not nearly hip enough for this, I think it means I've known him for a long time. It's no disrespect to Gardner Minshew. I'm just trying to get in the best position as a team as we can to win. That's all that was about, just friendly competition because that brings out the best in people. So no disrespect to Gardner Minshew, but obviously when you're arguing for Cam Newton to join the team, Chris, you don't want Cam Newton to be the backup to Gardner Minshew. You want Cam Newton to be the starter. If you were Gardner Minshew, how would you react to that message from Leonard Fournette?
Well, you know, with a guy like Gardner Minshew, who first off we know is a great guy, is liked by the Jacksonville fan base and the organization, obviously, so they're going with him. But also, if I put myself in Gardner Minshew's shoes, I also sit there and go, I haven't done anything yet. I don't have a lot of pelts on my horse, right, yet to sit here and go, I'm the man. I'm the starting quarterback of a franchise. Nobody should come in here and challenge me. You shall not pass. No, I mean, I don't think he's earned that right yet, all right, to just feel like he's warm and cozy. Now, can he sit there and go, man, I wish Leonard Fournette had a little more, confidence in me and, wanted me to be the guy? Yeah, sure. But I think Gardner Minshew, and we've been around him now, right? I think he gets it. I mean, there's a guy like Cam Newton out on the street right now who won an MVP, who's been dominant in the NFL for a long, long time. So this is not personal. If I'm Gardner Minshew, I'm kind of like, this is kind of messed up. You said this and made it public. I don't like that aspect of it because now you start to get those rumors going and, is Leonard Fournette unhappy? But I think all in all, Gardner Minshew will be able to be realistic about the situation and be able to handle it like a professional. I don't think he'll be personally hurt by it, Mike.
So that came up in the middle of the week, Chris, and coincidentally, Doug Marrone, the Jaguars coach, was on Lunch Talk Live with Mike Tirico on Friday, and Marrone had a chance to talk about his starting running back, musing publicly about the possibility of bringing in Cam Newton to supplant Gardner Minshew. Here's Marrone from Friday.
With players, you're always going to have friends like, hey, this guy should come or that guy should come. And, you try to talk to the players about talking about the team and doing what's best and keeping a single message. But then a lot of times you're going to have to be able to communicate in that locker room. I mean, that's the big thing with me. I mean, we all talk about, hey, we're all men and everything. And, when you're in that locker room, you got to say, hey, listen, I said this because I really think that this is, best for the team. And if you can't say this is what's best for the team, then you're going to have issues. And then things can spiral to a point where you can't get in.
That's Marrone with Mike Tirico from Friday. And I like that very pragmatic approach by Doug Marrone. You have to make sure that these two guys, Fournette and Minshew, work it out. And if Marrone needs to help facilitate that, so be it. But then came the next development in this story that has now lingered for several days, a report from ESPN on Saturday. And I confirmed this yesterday. The Jaguars are looking to trade Leonard Fournette, who had, Chris, 1,674 yards from scrimmage last year, his best season yet in the NFL. For a team that didn't really have a great passing game because Minshew was getting up to speed after Nick Foles got injured, and then Minshew got kind of benched when Foles was healthy, and then Foles got benched again for Minshew. Meanwhile, Fournette was the most steady and productive member of the offense. They're looking to trade him. He's got a guaranteed salary of $4.1 million this year. I guess I'm not shocked by this, but at the same time, Leonard Fournette had a pretty solid year, right? And,
yes.
And I think at the core, here's what a source told me yesterday, and I heard this from multiple different people who understand the dynamics. Leonard Fournette, and this is the quote, I'm going to go ahead and say it, is a pain in the ass. And there's only so much you can take when dealing with a pain in the ass, especially at a position like running back, where there are plenty of other guys out there that you can find, maybe in the draft this week, who can come in and get it done. So $4.1 million, when you consider what the Broncos are paying Melvin Gordon, $8 million, what the Cardinals are paying Kenyon Drake, $8.48 million, $4.1 million for 2020 with an option for 2021 at $8.48 million if you pick it up by May 3rd. That's a bargain for a guy who has been a high-end producer, at least based upon what we saw from him last year.
Well, he's a really good football player. You said that, and you're right. I mean, he's probably right outside the top 5 running backs in football when you really get into that conversation. Now, added to the fact, you mentioned it, the draft is deep at running back. We know that. There's going to be a lot of guys go in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round, so you could certainly fill holes that way, right? We know the Jacksonville Jaguars, even though Leonard Fournette, like you're saying, Mike, is the best probably offensive player on their football team. I don't think there's any denying that right now. They got some other good ones too, like DJ Shark and some of the receivers. But I think he's probably the most consistent, proven commodity on their offense. And they're in a rebuild mode. So they're stuck in, okay, yes, it'd be nice to have a good tailback, but we can get others. We're in rebuild mode right now, obviously, with what they've been doing. Yannick Ngakoue being on the trade market, everything there. Then Leonard Fournette getting towards the end of his rookie contract, which you're right, it's very favorable right now. But also the balance is, we might be able to strike and get the most for him right now with teams maybe going, we're in the draft evaluation process. We need these 2 or 3 positions really bad. And I also need running back. Man, I can make a trade right now and get the running back. And then maybe I can use those draft assets to use the other position needs I have on my football team to get filled. So I think there's that aspect, Mike. And then last thing, because I'm sorry for the long answer, but Leonard Fournette has proven to be a little bit of a pain in the butt there. There's no doubt. Whether it was running on the field in Buffalo and getting involved in a fight across the field, there's been a few other instances. Plus, he runs violently, and he's had a little injury history. And I'm sure all of those things are the reasons we're hearing about him on the trade market right now.
Yeah, and not to mention publicly lobbying for Cam Newton to join the Jaguars at a time when it's obvious
of course
that the team is shifting its focus to Gardner Minshew as the starting quarterback and hoping to give him a full and fair opportunity to be the guy. Now, look, I know that whenever we talk about the Jaguars now, the word rebuild comes up. I don't think that they view it that way, in part because the owner, Shad Khan, isn't going to be patient with Doug Marrone and Dave Caldwell. This is the old change the tire on a moving car retooling effort. And it's cultural as much as anything, Chris. Getting rid of guys that really don't buy in, getting rid of guys that may be inclined to be a pain in the butt. And also, I can't help but wonder, is the offense going to look different this year with Jay Gruden there as the coordinator? Are they going to open it up? Are they going to throw it around more? Do they not need a between-the-tackles violent downhill runner that could maybe fit better somewhere else? So all those things considered, the Jaguars trying to get what they can for Fournette. And if they can't get anything they really like, look, there's still on the back burner a grievance over whether or not his guarantees were voided when he was suspended during that Bills game or after that Bills game for his actions during the Bills game back in 2018. That could heat up again. They could cut him and end up owing him nothing for this year if they can't trade him. But I'd like to think at $4.1 million, they can find somebody to take on a guy who had 1,674 rushing yards and put him on a team where you will have the coaching and the veteran leadership to get him to not be a pain in the butt. And Chris, here's your opportunity to call me crazy. We have been talking about the Kansas City Chiefs needing an upgrade at the tailback position. They were looking into Le'Veon Bell last year, according to Bell, when the trade deadline was approaching. Think about Leonard Fournette as a guy who could be the balance to that Chiefs passing offense, as the guy who can contribute in the passing game. He had over 500 receiving yards last year, even though he is viewed as a downhill, violent, physical runner. Do you have any positivity in your being when I suggest Leonard Fournette as a possible Kansas City Chief, where he would have Andy Reid, who would maybe know how to press the buttons and get the most out of him, and more importantly, a guy who grew up in the same neighborhood as Leonard Fournette in New Orleans and who went to the same college as Leonard Fournette in Tyrann Mathieu, to basically get him pointed in the right direction and get him to stop being a pain in the butt and get the most out of his physical attributes. What do you say?
Well, I don't think it's totally crazy, okay? First off, I mean, I think you're totally crazy and a tired-looking crazy on Monday. But just to add that in there. You're welcome. But I think all your points are real. I do. And first off, if he is listen, I don't look at Leonard Fournette and go, oh man, he's a problem. This guy's a real pain in the butt. No, I don't look at him that way. I think he's a young guy who's emotional and was a part of a team where they let the players' emotions kind of run the team a little bit there in Jacksonville for a little while. And I think he got out of hand. Now, you want to check somebody before they wreck somebody? Yeah, you go to a team that just won the Super Bowl and they realize, oh, wow, they don't really need me here, right? Just like we talk about with New England all the time. That'll set somebody straight. Plus, players are usually excited to go to a team like that because they're going, wow, I've been in Jacksonville. We had one good season. I'm dying to win some football games, do any of that. The Tyrann Mathieu connection there, Mike, very real. That would certainly encourage me if I was Kansas City and thinking about that. And Leonard Fournette, like I said, he can catch the ball to the backfield. He's a freak of nature, okay? I don't think people realize how good Leonard Fournette is. He got stuck in Jacksonville with Blake Bortles, who couldn't throw the football. And people put 9 people at the line of scrimmage for the first 3 years of his career, all within 4 feet of the line of scrimmage, because they just said, no, Blake Bortles isn't going to beat us. So it's never looked as sexy and as good statistically and highlight-wise because they've never had a pass game to worry about since he's been there as a starting running back, and it's hard to thrive there. So I do understand that thought, Mike, and I don't think you're totally crazy.
Other teams that I've considered, and before I move on, let me say this. Damian Williams, who had a very good performance in the Super Bowl. He had 498 rushing yards last year for the Chiefs. Now, I know Andy Reid doesn't have a reputation as being a guy who establishes the run and sticks with the run and runs and runs and runs, but under 500 yards for your leading rusher, not encouraging. And look at those birds. And they paid LaShawn McCoy $3 million last year. And what did they get out of him for $3 million? You can get Leonard Fournette for 4.1. That seems like a good trade. But I went through all the divisions, every team, and I tried to be broad in who I thought should be interested or could be interested in Fournette. How about the Steelers, right? Isn't that one of those moves where the moment they got him, we would say, well, we should have been thinking of the Steelers all along.
But it's the first team that came to my head was the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, when I read the articles on PFT and some of this going down, I went, ooh, man, first off, he looked really good in black and yellow. They need that type of runner there, especially, hey, it's, James Conner, I like him. I don't think he's a starting superstar type tailback. I think he's a great guy to have as your backup. But also with Big Ben coming off of an elbow injury and getting up there in years, I mean, I don't know if you're the Steelers, you can go into the year and go, we can win games just throwing the ball 40 times a game with Big Ben. I love Big Ben. I think he's as underrated as hell in the all-time lures of this sport. He's a great player, but he is that age. And I would think that would be something they would entertain. Now, the big thing is Pittsburgh, they've traded some assets away to get players like Minkah Fitzpatrick. Do they have the ass and Devin Bush last year in the first round? Do they have the assets? Do they want to trade more of those assets away to get a running back where, hey, as you and I both know, it only might be a 3 or 4 year gig before his career is over, or certainly on the downhill side of things?
It was Jerome Bettis who got started in L.A. with the Rams before he was traded to the Steelers. We don't think of him as a Ram. We think of him as a Steeler, and that's exactly what would happen with Fournette, who as a rookie was with the Jaguars, went to Pittsburgh twice that year. Regular season, he had 181 rushing yards, including a 90-yard touchdown, which will help you get to 181 if you have 90 on one play. And then in the playoffs, went back to Pittsburgh and won and had 109 yards against Pittsburgh. So they have seen up close what he can do to their defense. A couple of other teams that came to mind for me, and again, this is just spitballing. The Eagles really don't have that between the tackles presence. I know Miles Sanders aspires to be Christian McCaffrey, but become Christian McCaffrey before you start talking about being Christian McCaffrey. And also the Rams. What do the Rams really have without Todd Gurley? They're hoping some guys step up, but we'll see. But, they're and that was the widest net possible. I thought about the Saints at one point until I looked at Latavius Murray's contract. They're into him for $3 million plus, fully guaranteed this year, Chris. So I don't think the Saints would be in on it. But what compliment he'd be to Alvin Kamara if they could do it financially. There just aren't a lot of teams out there that have the need. But to me, Chiefs, Steelers, Eagles, Rams would be the four that stand out. Is there anyone that I'm missing?
No, I like your four there. I agree with it very much. I'm going to say this one more time, okay? I think the Buffalo Bills should look at it. I know Devin Singletary's really good. I get it. He's not a bell cow running back. And you know, Mike, I'm into what was there to be had. He ran through a lot of big holes last year, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and just go, oh, man, I'm so impressed with what I saw from him. He's really good. But they got a big, powerful offensive line. You got to play in some weather conditions up there in Buffalo. I think he would fit there. That would jump out to me a little bit. And even the Indianapolis Colts. But, Mike, this guy's a freak. There's a reason he was a top 5 pick. And back to your Pittsburgh moment, that year when he had that 90-yard touchdown, that was like next-gen stats. He was the fastest guy in football that year. Nobody had more miles per hour on one run or play than anybody in the sport, not even Tyreek Hill. And Leonard Fournette's 230-something pounds. So that's what type of specimen he is. I think we hit all the teams, but I look at Buffalo sometimes and the Colts as a little bit of an outside chance just because I think Fournette's special.
And I remember his first year at LSU, he landed on our radar screen, and we all looked and said, this guy's going to be great at the next level. It tailed off a little bit. Then it took a couple of years to get going, but 1,674 yards from scrimmage last year. And it's amazing the number of people who write him off because he wasn't a star right away in the NFL and because he wasn't the guy after his freshman season at LSU that he was. But 1,674 speaks for itself on a team that didn't have a high-end passing game. All right, we have to take a break.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.